Well, good day, everybody, and welcome to the Matthew Street channel. I am your host, Matthew Street. Truly appreciate you being here. Time for another video, folks. And folks, way back in the 1960s, who remembers the 1960s? Well, as I've told you in the past, in addition to my parents buying me my first Beatles records back then in '64 and influencing me to love the Beatles, I was greatly influenced by my three older cousins, and I've told you that in the past in some of my videos. They were a little bit older than me. One of them was 9 years older than me, 5 years older than me, 2 years older than me, lived in Providence, Rhode Island. They had the records. They had the solo records later on. My oldest cousin had some of the memorabilia and stuff. And it had to be around 1968 or so, late 60s, that I was over their house once, and, they had stuff lying around, old toys they weren't playing with anymore, old stuff. And I remember going through a stack of stuff with one of my cousins, and he showed me this. Not this exact one. The one they had was tattered, torn, and beat up bad. Okay? But he had a copy of the Beatles original coloring book, the official Beatles coloring book from 1964. That's the front. Unfortunately, the young girl who owned it, Carol, wrote her name on my copy. But as you can see, I have a very pristine copy here in beautiful condition. Published in 1964 by the Beatles merchandise company, Cell-Type, as they called it. Out of the USA, it was manufactured. It was published out of Peerless Manufacturing Company in Detroit. And it was distributed by the Saalfeld Publishing Company out of Akron, Ohio. 59 cents in the stores when it originally came out. And it's just a great, fantastic book. My cousin had a beat up version of this. Probably his older brother had it in 64, 65. It was all colored in, and there was some pages were ripped out, pages were torn. I don't think there was any pristine pages left for me to color, but it was all beat up and bent. But I just got the biggest kick out of it, and I wanted one so bad, being a young boy of 7 or 8 years old at the time, but it wasn't being published anymore by the late 60s. So, they had this old beat up one, and I really wanted one because it was so cool, folks. I mean, great imagery, very simple artwork, but very tastefully done of the Beatles. Some American landmarks from when they came to the United States for the first time. Shows them walking in Washington. Little phrases down the bottom like, a visit to Washington, D.C. and the Capitol. Just beautiful imagery, like very basic pictures, but very well done. United Nations, Beatles in America. Just show you a couple of pages. Nice one here, Beatles with their Capitol album and being on TV. Shows a black and white image of something new. Again, published in '64. Just a cute little book, folks. And in the middle, you got some actual black and white images of the boys. There you go. If you notice, mine's in very pristine condition. I got this many years later at a Beatles convention or fest for Beatle fans. I don't even remember now where exactly I got it, but very nice, as you can see. Several pages of images of the guys. Nice pictures to color. And I liked it so much when my two little boys were, well, now they're men in their early to mid 30s. But I liked this book so much when I finally got one, my own, that I actually mimeographed or copied some pictures out of this. So when my boys were little and they were, getting into the Beatles music and stuff, Beatles Forever, isn't that cool? I copied pages of this, so I obviously didn't want to ruin the book. I paid a little bit for this. Not a lot of money. I think I got this back in the 90s, early to mid 90s, and it was only like 20 or 30 bucks when I got it. I think it's worth a lot more than that now, especially mine being in such pristine mint condition, other than Carol writing her name on it. I mean, look at this thing. I got some great, perfect pictures in. None of them are torn, ripped, or colored in. So this is beautiful, and I love it. And like I said, I gave some copies to my sons so they could color and have fun with it. And they did. And I just always was so happy to get one after so many years. And I always said, why don't they publish more things like that? Well, years and years later, in 2010, Rockoff Productions or Rockoff Products, I'm not sure where they're based out of, published this Beatles coloring book. And it's called The Beatles Yellow Submarine Coloring Book, spelt in the British way. I believe this company must be an overseas company. And it was sold on thebeatles.com for a long time. Not sure if it's still available. Not sure what it's worth now. And I don't even know what I paid for it, but it couldn't have been too much. The pages are a little, I mean, they're okay. I mean, not too elaborate. You get some pictures like that. The sea holes, you can color in. Very, little more detailed as far as the imagery than the Beatles' official coloring book from '64. So you probably can't use a real fat-tipped crayon to color these, or it would kind of, might ruin it, because there's a little more detail to the Sgt. Pepper one. Sgt. Pepper. The Yellow Submarine one here. So, you'd probably use the pencils or something, or a very thin-tip marker to color these in. And like I said, not sure if it's still available, but I thought this was pretty cool. And I think at the time, I have one here that I don't use, just keep as a collectible, as I said. But I did give one to my sons, and they colored and whatnot with it. So that was kind of cool. Now, here we are 13 years later, and although it says it was copyrighted in 2020, it looks like it was published just last year. And I just had someone gift this to me. And I thought it was very cool. I didn't even know it was out there. I mean, these are the only two Beatles coloring books I was aware of. Very cool to have them in my collection. But now we have the Beatles coloring book. Check it out, folks. Someone gifted this to me, and I was so stoked. Join the Fab Four on a magical mystery coloring tour. Very nice. Here's the back. You want to freeze that and read that? You can. But, folks, this is a really well-done book. Now, not so much in the artwork style of this book. This kind of harkens back to the official, original Beatles coloring book. Whoever did the artwork in this one, very inspired by this one here. And I love that. I think that was a great, great way to handle this. So the inside cover has Abbey Road, like on the front cover. All right, very detailed. You definitely need pencils or a thin tipped coloring device to do this book, because some of them are a little more, you could use a crayon, but some of them, especially in the later Beatle years, get very detailed. But you'll notice the style is very, very similar to the original official Beatles coloring book. I mean, really cool imagery. I love the imagery in this new coloring book. They really knocked it out of the park, folks, with what they selected as things to color if you're into it. A lot of people laugh about coloring books and say, they're kids stuff. They're just for kiddies. But you know what? Oh, Muhammad Ali, Cassius Clay with the Beatles down in Florida. Shea Stadium on the beach. A lot of people laugh about, coloring books, that's kids stuff. It really isn't. I've talked to some people about it, and they've said that a lot of folks, a lot of adults, I should say, have these very elaborate coloring books nowadays where they, for stress relief, for relaxation, put on some music, take out one of your adult-based coloring books, and go to town and be creative with your colors and the imagery and how you want to do it. And they say it's absolutely very fun and very relaxing. So I may give it a try, because this book was very inexpensive. Get it while you can, folks. It was only $7.99 online. That's pretty cheap for a nice coloring book of this caliber, I believe. I love the artwork in it. Like I said, very similar to the old original one, don't you think? Nice rubber sole one there. I'm just showing it to you because I just think, here's a real fun one. Take on the Sgt. Pepper cover. Wow. That would be a really nice project to work on. You could play around with the color schemes and whatnot. The inside fold of Sgt. Pepper. I mean, this is a fun-looking book, isn't it? And you get into the later period Beatles on the rooftop, the Mad Day Out. Meet the Beatles, Let It Be. I mean, this is real nice. There's the final image there. And then just for fun, you want to play around with the letters, you get the White Album, last page. So, folks, this is fantastic. And I think it's a fabulous addition to having these other two Beatle books that I'm aware of, unless there's others you're aware of, I'm not. But this just came out. It looks like published in 2023, even though it was copyrighted in 2020. But something to grab, folks, something to think about. It's a lot of fun, and I'm really looking forward to chilling, stress in life. Put on some good music, put on some good Beatles music. Get out the old pencils, the multicolored pencil set. Sit down with my Beatles coloring book. Crack open a nice cold adult beverage. We'll see. Maybe we'll go with the hard stuff. Maybe we'll go with the soft drinks. But regardless, maybe some water. We're going to have fun with this Beatles coloring book, and I think you would too. So, folks, that's it. I'm out of here. The Beatles coloring book. What a nice way to harken back to the old days and have some fun. Nice collectible. Thank you all for being here. I love you all. I appreciate your support, and I will be back very, very soon. Bye-bye.